Hi everyone. So you are starting off the morning again with Miss Megan. You are also starting off the morning with a worksheet, which is stapled 2 sheets together in front of you at your assigned seat. I would like everyone to stay in their assigned seats today. There will be no moving around. You may talk while you're completing your work, but you may not talk while this video is playing or Miss Megan is giving any direct instruction. So today we are going to be working on learning value with pencil. On your tables or your desk, you have pencils. One is a yellow pencil, which is a sharpened 2B pencil, and another should be an ebony pencil. We're going to start with the yellow 2B pencil today when we're working. So this is an example. I think you all have seen this before in my slides of some of the pencil drawings that I've done this past year. I work a lot in pencil and also in paint. I do a lot of paintings, but I picked these as an example to show you an example of what a pencil drawing looks like if you are using a broad range of value. So a value is basically a range of dark to light shades. You can see in these pictures there's a pretty broad range. So there are parts of the drawings that are really dark black and parts that are light and almost white in color. And then there's a whole range of gray tones and sort of middling gray tones throughout. So you can see when you do use a broad range of value, it actually helps your drawings look more realistic. And even if you're not interested in drawing something in a realistic style, it can make your drawings appear more dramatic or impactful. This is a value scale. This is similar to the one that you are seeing on your worksheet. It shows a scale of values from dark to light. So the darkest is number 1. It's almost a black color, and that's usually made with an ebony pencil. And the rest of the lighter shades can be made with your 2B pencil. There are other types of pencils that artists use. Sometimes I will use pencils that are 8B, 9B, those are darker pencils. They make a darker value when you press on them, when you press them to paper than a 2B would. There are also pencils with the letter H on them instead of B. So if you were to see like a 5H pencil, that is meant to be a harder pencil that makes a much lighter gray tone or something closer to the number 9 value you're seeing on this value scale. You can use those pencils. Most of my work that you just saw is either using an ebony or just a 2B, so you can use your 2B or your ebony to create values for this assignment. Okay, so this is another example of value scales. This is similar to what you're seeing on your worksheet. So the example that is all the way to the left of this slide, so the number 1 kind of column, you can see they just did that value scale using shading. Number 2, they created dark values and light values by drawing lines across each other. This is called cross-hatching. It's when you draw a line going in one direction and then a line going perpendicular to that other line. Perpendicular is hopefully a word that you've learned in math. It means when something is going directly running into and crossing another line, basically. The third line here, you can see they created value using just straight lines. This is called hatching. They didn't cross hatch, which means they didn't draw another set of lines that ran into that first set of lines. They just drew the initial ones. And just as a point of interest, you can look at number 5 here, the 5th column, and you can see that they created value using a form that looks kind of like the letter Z. So you can see where it looks darker, they put a lot more of those letters there, the Z's, and they placed them closer together to make it look darker. And then as they moved up the scale and it became lighter, they used fewer Z's, and so you got that lighter value. So this is an example of what you're going to be doing today. You are going to be both completing the value scales that look like this on your worksheet using your pencils, and you are going to be on the second copy. So the second sheet is exactly the same as the first, but it does not have an example of the ball drawn in it. And that is because you are going to try to render a ball using pencil and showing me a range of values. So you can see at this picture on right, it shows you all the range of values, all the ranges of darks, grays, and lights that you need to accurately draw a ball. It's not just drawing a circle. If you just drew a circle on a piece of paper, it would look totally flat. It's not a three-dimensional shape, and it wouldn't look like a three-dimensional shape. But when you're rendering a more realistic ball, you are basically using pencil to add value to make it look more three-dimensional or realistic. And you can see on the left, there are the names for each of these lights. So in both of these balls, the light is coming from the upper right-hand corner. There's a center light, which is usually a white or a light gray. There's a highlight, which is usually a white. There are halftones, which means they are somewhere in that middle gray area. There's a core shadow, which is usually quite dark. It's a darker gray. Sometimes you'll see it rendered and it'll look almost, but not entirely black. Then, because light goes past the ball and actually hits the table or the surface that it's sitting on and is reflected off that surface frequently, you can see the reflected light. So the light that bounces off the surface that the ball is sitting on and hits the back of the ball. The reflected light is always lighter than the core shadow. You also see a cast shadow on the table, and that is usually, I would say, like a darker gray, not completely black usually, but maybe black in some points where it meets with the shape of the ball. There is an occlusion shadow, which is that part where the cast shadow meets with the edge of the ball, and that part is usually pretty close to being black, if not black itself. So when you are rendering your ball today, I do want to see all of these things being used. You are going to be using a center light, highlight, halftones. You're going to be making sure you have a core shadow, reflected light, there's a cast shadow, and an occlusion shadow in your rendering. But before you do practice drawing with the ball, you're going to be filling in those worksheets and completing the value scales. So one, you're going to be completing with a number 2 pencil. Start there. The first page that you have is actually kind of an example. I did that mostly for you so you could see what it looked like. So you're going to be doing that number 2 pencil work on the second sheet. So if you turn it over, it's exactly the same. You'll be filling it out there. Then next, you're going to be trying to do the same scale with an ebony pencil. Ebony pencils, the lead is softer. It creates a much darker tone, and you don't have to press quite as hard. So that's what you'll be using there. And then the third one, you'll be using cross hatching. All right, I'll see you soon.